I've always been a sucker for perfection. It's what drove me to the top of the tech world, and it's what brought me to this godforsaken latte art competition on a sweltering Corpus Christi afternoon. The air conditioning in the convention center was working overtime, but it did little to cool the fire of frustration burning inside me. "Next contestant," I called out, my voice carrying the weight of boredom and disappointment. I'd seen dozens of swans, hearts, and rosettes today, each as uninspiring as the last. Being CEO of a Fortune 500 company didn't prepare me for the mind-numbing tedium of judging foam designs. That's when she walked up to the counter. Nicole Green, according to the name tag pinned to her crisp white shirt. Her brunette hair was pulled back into a neat ponytail, revealing striking green eyes that seemed to dance with excitement. I found myself sitting up straighter, my interest piqued for the first time all day. She began her pour with the confidence of a seasoned artist. As the steamed milk flowed into the rich espresso, something extraordinary took shape. It wasn't another tired floral pattern or cute animal. No, this was a goddamn phoenix rising from the ashes of mediocrity. "Holy shit," I muttered under my breath, leaning in for a closer look. The detail was exquisite, every feather, every flame rendered in perfect miniature. It was more than latte art, it was a statement. Our eyes met as she finished, and I swear I felt a jolt of electricity pass between us. Her lips curled into a small, knowing smile. She knew she'd created something special, and she knew I recognized it too. "Impressive," I said, trying to maintain my professional composure. "What inspired this design?" Nicole's eyes sparkled as she answered, "The myth of rebirth and transformation. Sometimes we need to burn everything down to create something beautiful." I nodded, her words resonating deeper than I cared to admit. "Well, you've certainly set the bar high for the competition." As I reached for the scorecard, our hands brushed accidentally. I jerked back, startled by the warmth that shot up my arm at the contact. Nicole's cheeks flushed slightly, and I found myself wondering if she felt it too. The rest of the competition passed in a blur. I went through the motions, tasting and judging, but my mind kept drifting back to that phoenix and the woman who created it. When it came time to announce the winner, there was no question in my mind. "The grand prize goes to Nicole Green for her extraordinary phoenix design," I declared, holding up the golden trophy. The crowd erupted in applause as Nicole made her way to the stage. As I handed her the trophy, our hands touched again. This time, neither of us pulled away immediately. Our eyes locked, and for a moment, the noise of the crowd faded away. "Congratulations," I said softly, finally releasing the trophy. "You've got a real gift." "Thank you, Ms. Powell," she replied, her voice warm and genuine. "It means a lot coming from you." As she turned to address the crowd, I found myself staring at her profile, admiring the graceful curve of her neck and the way her eyes lit up as she spoke. It had been a long time since anyone had captured my attention like this. Later, as the event wound down and people began to filter out, I spotted Nicole at the edge of the room, carefully packing up her equipment. Before I could talk myself out of it, I walked over to her. "So, Nicole," I said, trying to sound casual, "where did you learn to pour like that?" She looked up, surprise and pleasure mingling in her expression. "Years of practice and a little bit of magic," she replied with a wink. I laughed, charmed despite myself. "Well, it certainly paid off. Listen, I know this might sound crazy, but..." The next few weeks were a blur of unexpected connections. My assistant of 15 years, Margaret, had been dropping hints about retirement for months, but her announcement still caught me off guard, right in the middle of our quarterly strategy meeting. "I'm ready to sail around the world," she declared, spreading a glossy brochure of Caribbean cruises across my mahogany desk. 20 years with this company is enough, Addison." I couldn't argue. Margaret had been more than an assistant, she was the backbone of my entire operation. Finding someone to replace her seemed impossible. And then I thought of Nicole. The latte competition lingered in my mind like a persistent caffeine buzz. Her precision, her creativity, those weren't just skills for creating art in a coffee cup. Those were skills that could transform a business. I tracked her down at the small artisan cafe where she worked. The place smelled of fresh roasted beans and possibility. She was arranging a complex latte design when I walked in, her concentration so intense she didn't notice me initially. "Impressive," I said, making her jump slightly. "You're always creating something beautiful." Nicole's cheeks flushed. "Ms. Powell, what brings you here?" I got straight to the point. How would you feel about becoming my personal assistant? Her eyes widened. The question hung between us like steam rising from a fresh espresso. Me? But I'm just a barista, she stammered. You're significantly more than just a barista, I responded, sliding a business card across the counter. You're strategic, precise, creative. Our conversation stretched into hours. We talked about everything. Her dreams, my company's vision, the intricate dance of professional ambition. With each passing minute, I became more convinced she was exactly what I needed. By evening, we'd sketched out the potential of her role. Not just an assistant, but a strategic partner who could bring fresh perspective to my tech firm. I'll need to think about it, Nicole said finally, her green eyes searching mine. Of course, I replied, but don't think too long. As I left the cafe, something felt different. The world seemed brighter, more possible. Margaret had always been efficient, but Nicole felt like potential incarnate. Little did I know how profoundly she would change everything. That night, over a late-night conference call with Tokyo investors, my mind kept drifting back to her. The way she'd described her vision for innovation, the passion in her voice, it was intoxicating. When my phone buzzed late that evening, I assumed it was another work email. Instead, it was a text from an unknown number. I'm in, it read. When do I start? I smiled, realizing everything was about to change. The office dynamic shifted like tectonic plates the moment Nicole stepped through the door. Gone was the barista uniform, replaced by a sleek blazer and pencil skirt that hugged her curves in all the right places. I caught myself staring more than once, forcing my gaze back to my computer screen. Your clock is here, Nicole announced, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. I looked up, startled to find it was already mid-morning. Time seemed to fly with her around. Thanks, I mumbled, straightening my blouse. And Nicole, great job on that report yesterday. You're catching on fast. Her smile could have lit up the entire floor. I aim to please, Ms. Powell. As the weeks rolled by, Nicole proved herself indispensable. She anticipated my needs before I even realized them, streamlined our processes, and brought a fresh perspective to our tech solutions. The board was impressed, and so was I. But with her growing competence came a growing tension. Our late-night strategy sessions became a delicious torture. The way she'd lean in close to point out something on my laptop, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air long after she'd left the room, it was maddening. One evening, as we pored over quarterly projections, I finally worked up the courage to ask about her past relationships. Oh, you know, she said, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. A few here and there, nothing serious. No one special waiting at home? I probed, trying to keep my tone casual. She met my gaze, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Not at the moment. You? I shook my head. Married to the job, as they say. Nicole nodded, turning back to the spreadsheets. But I swore I saw a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The next day, disaster struck in the form of a wayward cup of coffee. I was reaching for a file just as Nicole set down my morning latte. Our hands collided, sending the steaming liquid cascading over my desk and onto my white blouse. Shit, I cursed, jumping up. The hot coffee seeped through the thin fabric, clinging to my skin. Oh God, I'm so sorry, Nicole exclaimed, frantically grabbing tissues. Here, let me help. Before I could protest, she was dabbing at my chest, her face a picture of concern. Our eyes met, and suddenly the air felt thick with tension. Her hand stilled, resting just above my heart. For a moment we stood frozen, the world narrowing to just the two of us. I could feel her breath on my cheek, see the flecks of gold in her green eyes. My gaze dropped to her lips, and I found myself leaning in ever so slightly. A sharp knock at the door shattered the moment. We sprang apart as if burned, just as my CFO waltzed in, oblivious to the charged atmosphere. Addison, we need to talk about the merger. Oh, what happened here? I stammered out an explanation about clumsy accidents while Nicole busied herself cleaning up the spill, her cheeks flushed pink. The CFO droned on about financial projections, but I couldn't focus. My skin still tingled where Nicole had touched me. That night, I tossed and turned, replaying the moment in my mind. What if we hadn't been interrupted? Would I have kissed her? Would she have kissed me back? The questions haunted me, making it impossible to concentrate on work the next day. Every time Nicole entered my office, I felt my heart rate spike. Our usual easy banter felt forced, laden with unspoken tension. It wasn't until late in the evening, when most of the staff had gone home, that we found ourselves alone again. Nicole knocked softly on my open door, a stack of reports in her arms. "I finished the analysis you asked for," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, gesturing for her to come in. As she set the papers on my desk, our fingers brushed. This time, neither of us pulled away. "Nicole," I began, my voice husky. "About yesterday." She met my gaze, her eyes dark with an emotion I couldn't quite name. "Yes?" The air crackled with electricity. I opened my mouth, not sure what I was going to say, when my phone buzzed loudly. The spell broken, Nicole stepped back, smoothing her skirt. "You should get that," she said softly. "It might be important." As she turned to leave, I called out, "Nicole?" She paused at the door, looking back over her shoulder. "Thank you," I said, "for everything." She smiled, a small, sad thing. "Anytime, Miss Powell, anytime." As the door closed behind her, I slumped in my chair, my heart racing. This attraction, this connection, it was becoming impossible to ignore, and I had no idea what to do about it. The tension between Nicole and me had been building for weeks, a powder keg just waiting for a spark. That spark came in the form of a cream-colored envelope, delivered to Nicole's desk on a Tuesday morning. I was on my way to a meeting when I saw her face light up as she opened it. "Everything okay?" I asked, pausing by her desk. "My best friend's getting married," she exclaimed, her green eyes dancing with excitement. "Oh, Addison, it's going to be beautiful. A destination wedding in the Corpus Christi Bay Area." I smiled, genuinely happy for her enthusiasm, even as a twinge of something, jealousy, loneliness, pricked at my heart. "That's wonderful, Nicole. When's the big day?" "Next month," she said, then bit her lip, hesitating. "Actually, I was wondering if you might want to come with me." "As my plus one?" The question hung in the air between us, laden with possibility. I knew I should say no. Maintaining professional boundaries was crucial, especially given the growing attraction between us. But the hope in her eyes was impossible to resist. "I'd be honored," I heard myself say, and the radiant smile she gave me in return made my heart skip a beat. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of wedding preparations alongside our usual work commitments. Nicole threw herself into helping her friend, and I found myself swept along in her enthusiasm. We spent evenings after work browsing boutiques for the perfect dresses, our hands brushing as we sifted through racks of silk and chiffon. One night, as Nicole twirled in front of a mirror in a stunning emerald gown that matched her eyes, I felt my breath catch in my throat. "What do you think?" she asked, meeting my gaze in the reflection. "You look." I paused, searching for a word that wouldn't betray too much. "Breathtaking." A blush crept up her cheeks, and she turned to face me. "Your turn," she said softly, holding out a sapphire blue dress. "This would look amazing with your eyes." As I changed in the fitting room, I could feel my heart racing. This was dangerous territory we were treading, but I couldn't bring myself to stop. When I emerged, Nicole's sharp intake of breath told me all I needed to know. "Addison," she whispered, stepping closer, "you're stunning." For a moment, we stood there, inches apart, the air crackling with unspoken desire. I could smell her perfume, see the flutter of her pulse at her throat. It would be so easy to lean in, to finally cross that line we'd been dancing around for months. A sales associate's cheerful voice broke the spell. "How are we doing in here, ladies?" We jumped apart, guilty as teenagers caught making out behind the bleachers. "Fine," I managed, my voice strained. "We'll take both dresses." As the wedding weekend approached, I found myself both dreading and anticipating it in equal measure. The thought of a whole weekend away with Nicole, away from the office and our usual roles, was intoxicating and terrifying. The day before we were set to leave, Nicole burst into my office, her face pale. "Addison, I think there's been a mistake." "What's wrong?" I asked, immediately concerned. She handed me her phone, open to an email. "Look at the bride's name." I scanned the message, feeling the blood drain from my face as I read the name, Danielle Evans, my college sweetheart, the woman I'd thought I'd spend my life with, until our careers pulled us in different directions 15 years ago. Nicole, I said slowly, looking up at her worried face, I think I need to tell you something. As I recounted my history with Danielle, Nicole listened intently, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Do you still have feelings for her? She finally asked, her voice small. I shook my head vehemently. No, that's ancient history. I'm just shocked, I guess. I haven't thought about her in years. Nicole nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. Maybe I should go alone, she suggested hesitantly. The thought of her going without me, of missing this chance to explore whatever was growing between us, made my chest tighten. No, I said firmly, reaching out to take her hand. I want to go with you, if you'll still have me. She squeezed my hand, a small smile playing at her lips. Always, she murmured. As we left the office that evening, the air heavy with unspoken words and suppressed emotions, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wedding was going to change everything. For better or worse, our carefully maintained professional boundaries were about to be tested in ways neither of us could have anticipated. Little did I know just how right I was. The drive to Corpus Christi was a study in unspoken tension. Nicole fiddled with the radio, her fingers dancing nervously across the dial, while I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The weight of my past with Danielle and my growing feelings for Nicole pressed down on me like a physical force. We arrived at the beachfront hotel just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. As we checked in, the desk clerk handed us our room keys with a knowing smile. Enjoy your stay, ladies, she said, winking. I felt my cheeks flush as I realized we'd be sharing a room. Of course, we would. We were here as a couple, weren't we? Even if we hadn't put a name to whatever this was between us. Our room was beautiful, with a balcony overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, but all I could focus on was the single king-sized bed dominating the space. I can sleep on the couch, I offered weakly, setting down our bags. Nicole turned to me, her green eyes soft in the fading light. Don't be ridiculous, Addison. We're both adults. We can share a bed. The rehearsal dinner that evening was a surreal experience. Seeing Danielle again, after all these years, was like looking at a ghost. She was still beautiful, her blonde hair now cut into a chic bob, laugh lines crinkling at the corners of her eyes. When she spotted me, her face lit up with genuine warmth. Addison Powell, she exclaimed, pulling me into a hug. I can't believe you're here. I returned the embrace awkwardly, acutely aware of Nicole standing beside me. Congratulations, Danielle. You look happy. I am, she beamed, then turned to Nicole. And you must be Addison's girlfriend. I'm so glad she's finally found someone. Before I could correct her assumption, Nicole stepped forward, slipping her arm through mine. It's lovely to meet you, Danielle. I've heard so much about you. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions and small talk. I found myself constantly aware of Nicole's presence. The warmth of her body next to mine. The way she'd lean in close to whisper a comment or joke in my ear. It felt natural, comfortable, and incredibly dangerous. Back in our room, the tension that had been building all day finally reached a breaking point. As I stepped out onto the balcony, trying to clear my head, Nicole followed me. Are you okay? She asked softly, placing a hand on my arm. I turned to face her, suddenly overwhelmed by her proximity, the concern in her eyes, the way the moonlight played across her features. Nicole, Before I could finish my thought, she leaned in and pressed her lips to mine. The kiss was soft, tentative at first, then grew more insistent as I responded. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer as she wrapped her arms around my neck. When we finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, I rested my forehead against hers. We shouldn't be doing this, I murmured, even as every fiber of my being screamed for more. Why not? Nicole challenged, her fingers tracing patterns on the back of my neck. We're both adults. We both want this. You work for me, I protested weakly. It's complicated. She pulled back slightly, meeting my gaze. Life is complicated, Addison, but this feels right. And then she was kissing me again, and all my arguments melted away. We stumbled back into the room, hands roaming, clothes being shed. As we fell onto the bed, I marveled at the softness of her skin, the curve of her hips, the way she gasped when I kissed that spot just below her ear. What followed was a night of passion and discovery, our bodies moving together in perfect synchronicity. It was everything I had imagined and more, leaving us both breathless and sated. As we lay tangled in the sheets afterward, Nicole's head resting on my chest, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years, but a nagging worry still gnawed at the edges of my contentment. "What happens when we go back to real life?" I asked, voicing my fears. Nicole propped herself up on an elbow, looking down at me with those mesmerizing green eyes. "We figure it out together," she said simply. "I'm not giving this up, Addison. Not unless you want me to." I pulled her down for another kiss, pouring all my emotions into it. "I don't," I whispered against her lips. "I don't want to give this up either." The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sound of waves crashing against the shore filtering through the open balcony doors. As I watched Nicole sleep, her face peaceful in the early morning light, I knew my life had irrevocably changed. The wedding ceremony was beautiful, set against the backdrop of the sparkling Gulf waters. As Danielle walked down the aisle, radiant in her white gown, I felt a sense of closure. Whatever we had shared in the past was just that, the past. My future was standing beside me, her hand warm in mine. During the reception, as Nicole and I swayed together on the dance floor, I caught Danielle's eye across the room. She smiled and raised her glass in a silent toast. I nodded back, grateful for the twist of fate that had brought me here, to this moment, with Nicole in my arms. As the night wore on and the party showed no signs of slowing, Nicole leaned in close, her breath tickling my ear. "Want to get out of here?" she asked, a mischievous glint in her eye. Without hesitation, I took her hand and led her out onto the moonlit beach. As we walked along the shore, waves lapping at our feet, I realized that for the first time in my life, I was truly, completely happy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever complications we might face back in the real world, I knew we'd face them together. And that was all that mattered. The return to reality hit like a bucket of ice water. One moment, Nicole and I were basking in the afterglow of our Corpus Christi romance, and the next, we were thrust back into the cutthroat world of corporate tech. I should have known better. In a company where gossip traveled faster than our latest software updates, our change dynamic didn't go unnoticed. Whispers followed us down hallways. Eyebrows raised when we emerged from my office, slightly disheveled after a private meeting. It all came to a head during a tense board meeting. I was in the middle of presenting our latest quarterly projections when Gerald, our serpentine CFO, cleared his throat. "Fascinating numbers, Addison," he drawled, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "But I'm more interested in discussing the company's fraternization policies." The room fell silent. I felt the blood drain from my face as every pair of eyes turned to me. "I'm not sure I follow, Gerald," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. He leaned forward, his gaze predatory. "Oh, I think you do. Your little dalliance with your assistant isn't exactly a secret." The words hit me like a physical blow. I opened my mouth to respond, but no sound came out. How could I defend myself without implicating Nicole? Just then, the door burst open. Nicole strode in, her head held high, a stack of papers clutched to her chest. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, her voice clear and confident, "but I have some information that's pertinent to this discussion." She distributed the papers to each board member. As I glanced at my copy, my eyes widened. It was a comprehensive report detailing the positive impact our partnership had on the company's productivity and innovation. "As you can see," Nicole continued, "since I joined Miss Powell's team, our efficiency has increased by 30%, and we've developed 3 groundbreaking products. Our relationship, professional or otherwise, has only benefited this company." The room erupted into murmurs as the board members pored over the data. I caught Nicole's eye, silently mouthing "thank you." She gave me a small nod before slipping out of the room. The meeting adjourned shortly after, with most of the board seeming satisfied with Nicole's presentation. But as I gathered my things, Gerald approached me. "This isn't over, Addison," he hissed. "The board may be placated for now, but think about the company's reputation. What will our clients say when they find out our CEO is sleeping with her subordinate?" His words churned in my stomach as I watched him saunter away. He was right, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I found Nicole waiting in my office, perched on the edge of my desk. As soon as I closed the door, she was in my arms, her body trembling slightly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered against my neck. I never meant to cause trouble for you or the company." I pulled back, cupping her face in my hands. "You have nothing to apologize for. You were brilliant in there." She smiled weakly. "It won't be enough though, will it?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know, but we'll figure it out together." We spent the next few hours strategizing, trying to come up with a plan to navigate this minefield we'd created. As the sky outside darkened, Nicole suddenly stood up. "I should resign," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What? No," I protested, jumping to my feet. "Nicole, you can't." "It's the simplest solution," she insisted. "If I'm not your employee anymore, there's no conflict of interest. But your career. I'll find another job," she said, a sad smile playing at her lips. "It's worth it if it means we can be together without all this complication." I felt my heart constrict at her words. She was willing to give up everything for us, and here I was, still clinging to my position, my reputation. "No," I said firmly, taking her hands in mine. "We're in this together. If anyone's going to resign, it should be me." Nicole's eyes widened. "Addison, no. This company is your life. You can't give it up." "It was my life," I corrected her. "But now I have something more important." We argued back and forth, neither willing to let the other sacrifice their career. As our voices rose, the tension that had been building all day finally exploded. "Damn it, Addison," Nicole shouted, tears glistening in her eyes. "Why can't you see I'm trying to protect you? And why can't you understand that I don't need protection?" I fired back. "I need you." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. Before I could second-guess myself, I closed the distance between us, capturing her lips in a searing kiss. For a moment, everything else faded away, the company, the board, the gossip. It was just us, lost in each other. When we finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, I rested my forehead against hers. "We'll figure this out," I murmured. "Together. No resignations, no sacrifices. Deal?" Nicole nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Deal." As we left the office that night, hand in hand, I knew we were far from out of the woods. The coming days would be a gauntlet of challenges, board meetings, HR discussions, maybe even a PR nightmare. But looking at Nicole, feeling the warmth of her hand in mine, I knew it was worth it. Whatever storm was coming, we'd weather it together. Little did I know, the true test of our relationship was just around the corner. And it would force us to confront not just the board, but our own fears and insecurities. The battle for our future was about to begin in earnest. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, negotiations, and sleepless nights. Nicole and I found ourselves in a precarious balancing act, trying to maintain our professional facade at work while nurturing our fledgling relationship behind closed doors. It all came to a head at the annual company gala. As CEO, I was expected to give a speech, to rally the troops and inspire confidence in our future. But as I stood at the podium, looking out over a sea of expectant faces, I felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to throw caution to the wind. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady despite the rapid pounding of my heart. "I stand before you tonight not just as your CEO, but as a woman who has recently learned an important lesson about life and love." A hush fell over the crowd. From the corner of my eye, I could see Nicole, her face a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "For years, I've poured everything I had into this company. I've sacrificed relationships, personal time, even my own happiness, all in pursuit of success. But recently, I've come to realize that true success isn't measured in profit margins or stock prices. It's measured in the connections we make, the lives we touch, and the love we share." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what came next. That's why I want to take this moment to publicly acknowledge something that many of you may have already suspected. I am in a relationship with Nicole Green, and I am not ashamed of it. The room erupted into a cacophony of gasps and whispers. I pressed on, my voice rising above the din. Nicole has not only been an exceptional assistant, but a source of inspiration and innovation for this company. Our relationship has made me a better leader, a more compassionate boss, and a happier person, and I refuse to apologize for that. As I stepped down from the podium, the room was split between awkward applause and stunned silence. I made my way through the crowd to Nicole, who was staring at me with wide, tear-filled eyes. "Addison," she whispered as I reached her, "I can't believe you just did that." I took her hand, ignoring the stares around us. I'm done hiding, Nicole. Whatever happens next, we face it together. The aftermath of my speech was as explosive as I'd feared. The board called an emergency meeting the very next day, where I found myself facing a firing squad of angry executives. "This is a PR nightmare," Gerald fumed, pacing the length of the conference room. "We've already lost 2 major clients over this scandal." I sat calmly at the head of the table, my hand intertwined with Nicole's under the polished wood surface. "Then we'll find new clients. Ones who value innovation and human connection over outdated prejudices." The debate raged for hours. Some board members called for my immediate resignation. Others defended my leadership, pointing to the company's recent successes. Through it all, Nicole remained a steady presence at my side, her quiet strength bolstering my resolve. In the end, we reached a compromise. I would remain CEO, but with increased oversight from the board. Nicole would be transferred to a different department, reporting to another executive to avoid any appearance of favoritism. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As we left the boardroom, exhausted but relieved, Nicole pulled me into an empty office. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her green eyes searching mine. "You've worked so hard to get where you are. I don't want to be the reason you lose everything." I cupped her face in my hands, marveling at the depth of emotion I saw reflected in her gaze. "Nicole, don't you see? You're not the reason I might lose everything. You're the reason I finally have everything that matters." She smiled then, a radiant, tear-filled smile that made my heart soar. And as I leaned in to kiss her, I knew with absolute certainty that I had made the right choice. That night, as we lay tangled together in the sheets of my bed, the moonlight casting a soft glow over Nicole's skin, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. We talked for hours about our future, about the challenges we still faced and the dreams we shared. "I never thought I'd find this," Nicole murmured, tracing lazy patterns on my skin. "Someone who sees me really sees me." I pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I see you, Nicole, and I love everything I see." The words slipped out before I could stop them, but I found I didn't want to take them back. Nicole's eyes widened, then softened with emotion. "I love you too, Addison," she whispered, before capturing my lips in a passionate kiss. What followed was a night of tender exploration and passionate declarations, our bodies moving together in perfect harmony. As we finally drifted off to sleep, I felt a sense of completeness I'd never experienced before. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. We still had skeptical board members to win over, judgmental clients to appease, and our own insecurities to overcome. But as I held Nicole in my arms, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing, I knew we could face anything as long as we were together. The future was uncertain, but for once in my life I was excited to face that uncertainty, because now I wasn't facing it alone. As the first rays of dawn crept through the window, I made a silent promise to myself and to Nicole. No matter what challenges lay ahead, I would fight for us, for this love that had taken me by surprise and changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. After all, some things were worth risking everything for. And Nicole, she was worth everything and more. A year had passed since that fateful company gala, and life had settled into a new rhythm. Nicole and I had weathered the storm of public opinion, corporate politics, and our own doubts. We emerged stronger, our bond tempered by adversity. As I stood in the bustling convention center, surrounded by the familiar aroma of freshly brewed coffee, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. We'd come full circle, back to where it all began, a latte art competition. But this time, we weren't just participants or judges, we were the hosts. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced into the microphone, my voice carrying across the excited crowd, "welcome to the first annual Tech Brew Latte Art Championship." The applause was deafening. I caught Nicole's eye from across the room where she was adjusting a banner. She winked, and my heart did a little flip. Even after all this time, she still had that effect on me. Tech Brew was our brainchild, a fusion of my tech expertise and Nicole's passion for coffee. We'd taken a risk, stepping away from the corporate world to build something of our own. It hadn't been easy, but standing here, seeing our dream come to life, I knew we'd made the right choice. As the competition got underway, I found myself reminiscing about that first day I'd seen Nicole, her green eyes focused intently as she created that stunning phoenix in foam. Who could have known that simple cup of coffee would change our lives forever? The day flew by in a whirlwind of activity. We judged entries, chatted with participants, and gave demonstrations of our latest coffee tech innovations. By the time the last latte was poured and the winners announced, I was exhausted but exhilarated. As the crowd began to disperse, Nicole made her way to me, 2 steaming cups in hand. "Thought you could use this," she said, passing me one. I took a sip and raised an eyebrow. "Is this?" "Yep," she grinned. "The same blend from our first competition. I've been saving it for a special occasion." We found a quiet corner and sat down, savoring our coffee and the moment of calm after the day's excitement. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Nicole mused, her eyes distant with memory. I reached out and took her hand, running my thumb over the simple gold band on her finger. We'd gotten married 6 months ago, a small, intimate ceremony on the beach in Corpus Christi. "It's been quite a journey," I agreed. Nicole set down her cup, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Speaking of journeys," she said, reaching into her pocket, "I have something for you." She pulled out a small sketchbook and handed it to me. Curious, I opened it to find page after page of intricate latte art designs. But these weren't just any designs. They told our story, from that first phoenix to the rings on our fingers. "I've been working on this for months," Nicole explained, a hint of nervousness in her voice. I thought maybe we could use these for our next big adventure." I looked up, confused. "Next big adventure?" Nicole took a deep breath. "I was thinking, maybe it's time we expanded our family? These could be designs for a new line of baby bottles or sippy cups or—" I cut her off with a kiss, my heart soaring. When we finally pulled apart, we were both laughing and crying. "Is that a yes?" Nicole asked, wiping away a tear. "It's a hell yes," I replied, pulling her close. As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by the remnants of our successful event, I marveled at how life could surprise you. I'd spent so many years focused solely on my career, never imagining that true happiness would come in the form of a talented barista with a knack for latte art. "You know," I said, nuzzling into Nicole's neck, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad I judged that competition all those years ago." Nicole chuckled. "And I'm glad I decided to enter. Best decision I ever made." As we gathered our things and prepared to leave, I took one last look around the convention center. The banner caught my eye, "Tech Brew, where innovation meets inspiration." It wasn't just a catchy slogan, it was the story of us. We walked out hand in hand into the warm Corpus Christi night. The future stretched out before us, filled with possibilities, a growing business, a growing family, and a love that only seemed to deepen with each passing day. "So," Nicole said as we reached our car, "what's next for us, Miss Powell?" I grinned, pulling her in for another kiss. "I don't know, Mrs. Powell, but as long as I'm with you, I'm ready for anything." As we drove home, the stars twinkling above us and the ocean breeze rustling through the palm trees, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. Life had taken me on an unexpected journey, from a driven CEO to a woman in love, from corporate boardrooms to coffee competitions. But here, with Nicole by my side and our shared dreams stretching out before us, I knew I'd finally found my true home. Our story, like the perfect cup of coffee, was a blend of bitter and sweet, of challenges and triumphs, and I couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. After all, the best stories, like the best relationships, are the ones that keep surprising you, keep challenging you, and keep making you fall in love all over again, day after day. And ours? Well, ours was just getting started.